Welcome to the Navigating Dental Insurance Podcast, where we don't take from insurance companies. Here are your hosts, Mr. Jordan Comstock and Mr. Ben Tuine. This podcast is sponsored by BoomCloud Dental Membership Software, www.boomcloudapps.com, and Veritas Dental Resources, www.veritasdentalresources.com. Enjoy the show.
Hey everybody, this is Ben Tuine and Jordan Comstock. Real quick here, we wanted to announce our conference that's coming up here November 3rd, 2018 here in Salt Lake City, 2nd. Utah. Sorry, November 2nd. That's why it's always great to have a co-host. You like the still small voice in the back of my head. In this case, it was a nice bass sound. November 2nd.
November 2nd.
Yeah. So November 2nd, folks, check out our website, saynotoppos.com to register. Just click on the 2000, what does it say there? Events.
Yeah, it's saynotoppos.com/event-2018. If you go to the homepage of our website, you'll see it right there at the top of the menu as well. So it doesn't really matter if you go directly to that link we said. Ben, should we share a promo code right now?
Yeah. So the promo code that we thought of is INS, abbreviation for insurance. So INS sucks. So INS sucks is the promo code, and you'll get 50% off if you register there. Anything else, Jordan?
No, that's it, man. We hope to see you guys there. Rock and roll.
Looking forward to it.
Welcome to another exciting episode of the Navigating Dental Insurance Podcast. I am your host today, Jordan Comstock. Today we don't have Ben. He's out. I don't know what he's doing, actually, so I can't tell anybody. But I'm here this morning with a guest. His name is Dr. Roy Shleburne. And Roy and I were hanging out in Hawaii a couple weeks ago for the ADMC meeting there. Roy, how are you doing, man?
I'm great. Kind of missing Hawaii just a little bit, but
so am I. It's cold here in Utah. I can't remember where are you from, Roy?
Western part of Virginia. So yeah, we had a heavy frost today. The leaves are changing. It's beautiful.
It is beautiful. That is true.
The high today is going to be 60. High tomorrow, I'm excited, is 68.
Oh, that's not bad, man. We're like 30s here, I think, for lows. I'm
looking
right
at my
now.
Kitchen window, and the leaves are changing, and it's beautiful fall weather. It's
that sounds
great time
nice.
of year.
That sounds nice. Here in Utah, it's 38 degrees right now.
Whoa!
And yeah, things are changing. It is beautiful. The mountains look beautiful. You were here a few weeks back for the Dental Intel Summit, and I'm sure you saw like the mountains and all the beautiful changing leaves in the mountains. So.
I did think it started.
Yeah, it's beautiful time of year, but Roy, I do not like winter, and I don't like snow. So I need we need to go back to Hawaii, man. We just got to go back to Hawaii.
Count me in.
Sounds good, man. So let me give everybody a little intro about you. Roy has been on our show before. I don't remember when it was, Roy. It's been maybe a year, I'm assuming. Or a little less.
Time flies when I'm having fun. I honestly don't remember.
Yeah, I'd have to go look in our episodes. But Dr. Shleburne is an honor graduate from VCU. What does that stand for?
Virginia Commonwealth University. Back in the day when I graduated, it was still known as Medical College of Virginia, but it's Virginia Commonwealth University today.
Awesome. So you opened a private general practice in Virginia in 1981. And then in 2008, Roy surrendered his dental license to practice dentistry after being convicted of healthcare fraud and was sentenced to 24 months in federal prison. Now a subject matter expert for the ADA and a nationally known speaker, writer, and consultant, Dr. Shleburne candidly shares his mistakes, his experiences, what he learned as a result, and how to avoid the same life-altering experience. His goal is to increase legitimate reimbursement while reducing risk and to keep you out of prison. That is a good goal, Roy.
I certainly hope so.
Yeah, I would imagine. This is a crazy story. And could you briefly give our audience your story, your brief story.
A snapshot?
Yeah, snapshot. Yeah, let's hear it.
Well, back in the old days, they called this the Reader's Digest condensed version. You could buy condensed Reader's Digest. That doesn't happen anymore. But had practiced in my grandfather's hardware store building for about 27 years. Had flown to California to the American Dental Association meeting. Just got back from there, by the way.
Oh, awesome.
While I was there, my wife had called to let me know that the FBI had come to my office, had battered down my back door, and were taking all my records.
Oh, man.
Was investigated for 3 years, was indicted, went to trial, was found guilty on all charges. One of the things that I didn't understand was the definition of intent to defraud. It includes if you submitted a claim for a patient you never saw for a service you never provided, and that was never the case with me. But it also includes a wider definition, which includes what's considered blind disregard. That means if you make mistakes and don't have systems to identify and correct those mistakes, that's considered from a legal standpoint intent to defraud.
Huh.
So
Wow.
we had made mistakes. We didn't have systems to identify and correct those. So they did an investigation over the course of 6 years, and over those 6 years, I was paid $3.5 million. And the amount that they found that I got that I wasn't entitled to of the $3.5 million was $17,899.57.
Wow.
And even though we were able to establish there was work that I provided, should have billed for, and could have billed for in excess of that amount, it didn't make any difference. So I learned the hard way about the risks that are associated with dental claims, the fact that dental claim form needs to be accurate, and that we need to have systems to identify and correct errors. Otherwise, we're considered committing intent to defraud. So,
wow.
yeah. So
Wow.
I've since devoted myself to sharing this story, not because I'm proud of it, but because I want to give people a very real reason for being very, very concerned about what we do and how we do it, and to do it correctly to protect and defend themselves. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Well, it is definitely a good story. It sounds like a very challenging situation as well. I can't imagine going through that, Roy. What would you have changed if you knew better?
I would have had systems to identify and correct errors. If you accept reimbursement from any government entity, and a lot of people think that's limited to Medicare, Medicaid, but it also includes federal employees. If you see dependents of active duty military, if you see anybody that's covered by the Affordable Health Care Act, to some degree, those are reimbursed by government funds. And you run the same risk as if you were a Medicaid practice, or if you saw a lot of Medicare.
Uh-huh.
So I would, number one, document appropriately to make sure that the record that you record for that patient is accurate, established.
Did I lose you, Roy? I can't
That
hear.
there errors. Is that me beeping or you beeping?
I lost you for a second there. So repeat. You started saying document, and then I lost you.
Yeah, document appropriately so that you establish medical necessity and that it is very clear in what you did. And you need to audit periodically to make sure that your documentation and your billing and coding are correct to help support your position. That is if you do choose to take dental insurance.
Yeah, of course,
Yeah, it's not something I say you have to or don't have to. Your choice to take dental insurance is up to you. My warning would be, if you do that, you need to be very careful about how you do it to make sure that you cross your T's and dot your I's.
Yeah, I agree.
No error is considered a innocent mistake. It can be construed as intent to defraud if you don't have the systems in place to.
That's crazy. So when you talk about like doing an audit, what do you mean by that? Can you go into some details there? Like, do you hire a third party to do the audit, or does your practice do it internally? How does that work?
Well, if you accept any of those government plans that I described, not just the Medicare, Medicaid, but the others as well, there's a mandated 7-step compliance program. It is mandated. You are to have the program in your practice, and it's good that you have it whether you accept government funding or not. It's good to have audit systems to make sure that things are being done correctly. So, number one, you need to decide that you're going to do auditing. 2, you need to set your standards. So, for example, if you're looking at your documentation, you need to understand the standard that you've established, what that record should look like, what it should contain. Once you do that, you need to establish a person who is going to be in charge of the whole program. And that person is not the one that does the audit, but that would be the person who schedules the audit time, may take that time off the book, may select the records that are going to be reviewed randomly, and might order pizza so that you have food to have when you're doing the audit.
Yeah.
They're not the one that's totally responsible, but they're the one that is kind of riding herd on the whole process.
Okay.
Then you need to train. Everybody needs to be on board. There needs to be adequate training. You shouldn't expect your team to maintain a standard if you haven't provided the correct training.
Yeah, it's your practice, right? So you got to make sure that you're getting your team trained on everything and making sure they're good to go.
And ultimately, you need to give the team the ability to give feedback. So there needs to be open communication. For example, if the documentation isn't being done to the doctor's standards that have been established in the team, that person needs to say, Doc, I could do that, but I don't have enough time to, or I haven't had enough training, or I don't have the supportive information. If it's a billing coding issue, do you have the right billing coding references? And you need to understand that when errors are determined, what you're going to do to be able to correct them moving forward, that they don't continue to happen. And the final part of the compliance program is if there's an individual on the team unable to meet the standard established, you're going to have to terminate that person. You can't keep a person around who is unable to meet the standard.
Yeah.
So that's the basic 7-step program. And like I said, it can be in any piece of the practice. It doesn't have to be billing and coding. You can use the whole method of improvement to move forward in any area of your practice to make sure that you are continually improving in what you do. And that may be communication skills, that may be phone skills, that may be any area of the practice. So it's a matter of putting together that type of step-by-step program to improve what you're doing today.
I love that.
So that you're better tomorrow. Yeah.
Totally. So what do you recommend? Like, obviously a practice, that wants to protect themselves from staying out of prison, right? They don't want to go to prison.
Correct.
Doing this audit, is that the only thing that you recommend that they need to do, or are there other ideas and tips you have for practices?
Yeah, in terms of the audit system, absolutely. Documentation, you need to make sure that, number one, the medical necessity is established for any service that you're providing. For example, radiographs is a huge issue. I attend not only dental meetings, but also dental insurance meetings. So it's great to hear what they are concerned about, and they are deeming an area that we may be providing inappropriate treatment for our patients, and radiographs are a number one. I do a lot of audits for doctors, and I'll sometimes see a notation in the clinical chart that said X-rays are not due. And my hope is one day when I ask that person, what does this mean in their practice, that their response will be, well, the doctor has reviewed the patient's history and the risk factors. And after that review of that patient's particular condition and situation, determined that the X-rays at this point would not be helpful in the diagnostic process.
Yeah.
I never get that answer when I ask, what does this mean X-rays are not due? What do you think that answer is?
X-rays aren't due. The answer is, like, you need X-rays to diagnose, like, the patient
Correct.
care. Like, I would imagine that's...
But typically, the response is, when somebody is asked that, what it means in their practice when X-rays are not due, every response I've ever gotten is, well, the insurance isn't going to pay for it.
Oh boy, yeah.
So you don't base your
care.
treatment decisions on what the insurance is going to pay for.
No, I'm totally anti that mindset, right? When it comes to dentistry and just healthcare in general too, right?
Correct. It's what the patient needs. You'll never meet standard of care by only providing treatment that the insurance is going to pay for. So, as far as the radiographs, documentation would be number one, the reason for them, the medical necessity.
Uh-huh.
So there again, if patient comes in with pain on the upper right-hand side, it should say doctor indicated that diagnostic radiograph on upper right-hand side, tooth is whatever the patient's complaint is to determine any issues with the tooth. So number one, the medical necessity is established. And if somebody is kind of confused about, well, what is that? The ADA in 2008, they actually updated in 2012. The ADA and the FDA, they put together a document that outlines the causes medical necessity. It'll give you an outline and a roadmap of when x-rays are taken and why, and what would be the appropriate film to take for. It doesn't mean you can't go off label and do something different if the doctor looks at it and goes, this, I may need this as well. But any radiograph prior to it being exposed needs to be justified from a medical standpoint. Why is it being taken? Number two, it needs to be diagnostic. So a film that is taken that doesn't meet standard, for example, if your bite wings are overlapped, if your PAs are cone cut, anything that would not pass a proficiency in dental school or hygiene school or assisting school, if you bill for that service, that's a worthless service. So you've submitted a fraudulent claim in the event that you billed for something that doesn't meet standard of care. Yeah. So number one, the necessity. Number two, that they are diagnostic. And number three, that clinical record should indicate that the doctor read and interpreted them. Now, there are two states where hygienists can diagnose, and that is Colorado and Oregon, and they have to have a certificate to do that. Yeah.
I had no idea.
So hygienists can diagnose in those two states if they have gone through the process to being certified to be able to diagnose. All other states, hygienists can't do that. They can't order radiographs, and they can't read them.
Okay.
So, and it's also problematic to have a standing order in your practice for, okay, we're going to take bite wings every 12 months, or we're going to take PAs every whatever. Like I said, a standing order is inappropriate because, for example, a patient with high risk, as far as caries go, you would maybe take them more frequently than once a year. Or a patient that's been in the practice for 10 years and they've never had anything needed to be done for those 10 years, taking bite wings every 12 months on that patient might be overexposing that patient. So there again, any orders for radiographs should be based on the patient's need. So I would encourage practices to think from the patient's point of view, not the insurance point of view, when they determine the need for treatment in any area. Number one, establish the medical necessity for. Number two, document appropriately what you did and why you did it. And thirdly, make sure that the billing and coding tracks specifically from that clinical record that establishes the need and what was done.
Yeah, I think that's a really good tip that practices need to know. Now, Roy, is this with only government insurance companies, or does it apply to like a standard insurance company, a private?
It applies to everybody. For example, I had a doctor who contacted me. They had sent a claim for a crown and had included a PA to justify the need for that crown.
Uh-huh.
That was not diagnostic. It was a bad film, and how that got sent in, I have no idea, but it did. So the insurance, the doctor who actually reviewed that claim looked at that PA that was sent in to justify the need for the crown and went, this is not diagnostic. I wonder if they've charged for this. I wonder how many other x-rays they've charged with or charged for that have not, they're non-diagnostic. So that triggered an audit of this practice. They pulled 20 charts And
Just
of the
at
20
random?
charts, yeah, kind of.
Okay.
There's no such thing as a really random, but
Yeah.
they pulled 20 charts and they reviewed the radiographs that were billed for those 20 patients. And 17% of the films that they had billed for were non-diagnostic. So they used that 17% number. They multiplied that 17% by all the reimbursements they had made for this practice for 6 years for the radiographs. So they asked for $72,000 back, and this doctor had to write a check back to the carrier. 72,000. Yeah, for radiographs that would be considered non-diagnostic. It's called extrapolation, and carriers do that. So they can extrapolate that 17% for 6 years because the statute of limitation on fraud is 6 years.
So they took 20 patients, and then they looked at them. Then they discovered that 17% of them
were non-diagnostic. Yeah, so they used that 17% to multiply by all the radiographs for 6 years because statute of limitation of fraud is 6 years, and they do that routinely now. So they'll do a small portion that is statistically significant from, I guess, the calculation point of view, and then they extrapolate that number to the universe of payments. They'll do it for crowns.
Man.
For example, there was a doctor who did a higher number of crowns than most in the area, so it triggered an audit, and they found that the need for the crown, although it was attached to the claim to the insurance company, which established the need for the crown.
Mm-hmm.
But when they looked at the clinical record, that information was not in the clinical record of the patient. And what's the legal document that actually substantiates the need for a crown? It's the clinical record.
The clinical record.
So, what had happened in this case, the doctor had been approached by the business manager who was doing billing and said, Mrs. Smith, you diagnosed the need for a crown. What's going on with the crown? And the doctor spews off the information. The mesiobuccal cusp was fractured off. It had an old alloy restoration that was leaking. There was recurrent decay. The crown was necessary to restore contour and function of the tooth so the patient would be able to maintain and keep that tooth. So the business person is writing furiously, puts that in the document that substantiates the need for the crown to the insurance carrier. So it's documented appropriately.
Mm-hmm.
Whoever reviews it says, that's a great reason for a crown. But when they do the audit, they'll look at the claim information and they'll compare that to the patient's clinical chart.
Record.
Yeah, and if that person who furiously wrote down all the information to send to the insurance company was not trained and did not add that information to the clinical record, then one didn't match the other. So when the audit's done, they look at the clinical records. None of that information that we had on the claim forms in this clinical record. So it's not substantiated. So they'll ask for the money back for the crowns, and it'll trigger an audit. So they'll go back through the history and maybe find 5% that the doctor had not made the note, and the clinical person or the business person who had heard the narrative from the doctor did not add that to the clinical record. So it's not substantiated from the clinical record. They'll ask for the money back for those services.
Holy smokes. Wow. That's insane. I had no idea that was an insurance company can even do that. It's becoming more common, you're saying, out there?
Oh, absolutely. Like I said,
wow.
All the insurance carriers will share submission information to a company who actually accumulates all that information.
Okay.
That
so just like a data company?
Yeah, it gives you trends, so they know exactly the frequency of the average doctor in terms of the number of crowns they do, the number of radiographs they do. It all is tied back, so that will help to profile that practice or that doctor.
Totally.
This doctor's Dr. Average, who is smack in the middle of the average, or you may have that doctor who does more crowns than other doctors, who does more surgical extractions, or if they do more core buildups than the other doctors in the area, that is going to initiate an audit, and they'll go back in and find out why this doctor is not considered normal or Dr. Average. And it doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong, but
No,
it does
no,
mean,
'cause I mean,
especially in those cases, that you better substantiate the reason why you did that in a way that whoever comes in and goes, I wonder why they do this differently than most people.
hence documentation, right? You got to have good.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Exactly.
When I worked at the dental lab, I always saw practices that would do more crowns than others, right? And we worked locally in Salt Lake City, so we were able to see some practices just did a higher volume of crowns. Not that they were doing anything wrong. Their patient base might just need more crowns than the other one. I mean, that's kind of
Correct.
what I saw.
No, there's justifiable reasons why one person would be a little bit unusual or do more or less. It can be doctor's philosophy, or it can be just your patient base. You may have an older group of patients who refer their friends and family. That would increase the number of crowns more than likely. So
Absolutely.
not an issue if you're wrong, but it is an issue unless you document appropriately to make sure when that causes the insurance person who does the review goes, I wonder why this insurance or this dental practice does 10% more crowns than anybody else in the area.
Yeah. And like you said, insurance companies have a data company.
It's P&R Strategies is the name of the company. They send all their information. They send all their information to the company who does the crunching numbers, and they enroll. It's an enrollee thing, and they give them the information. They use that to compare doctors.
It seems kind of funny because, right, the insurance companies are able to do all these things, but then dental practices can't get together and talk about what insurance companies are doing. Is that right? That's kind of right.
The issue is you can't come together and go, well, okay, we're all going to drop Delta because they
of course. I guess you can't do that. I mean, I've heard lots of practices that would wish they could do that, right? And the other day, I think I don't know if it was on our podcast or just me talking to somebody in just a normal conversation, saying they wish they could just get, if everyone were to drop like insurance companies, like insurance really depends on the practices to stay in business, to be honest, right? And the patients, of course.
It depends on the particular area. Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Deltas over the country are reducing their reimbursements. It's, they did in California, they have in the Northeast, I think they have in one of the Midwest states, and they've done their due diligence as well. They have a calculation. They'll know exactly how many doctors they can expect to drop out. And they don't mind because they have enough doctors in network who will remain to be able to provide adequate service to their insured patients. So they don't do that just willy-nilly. They've done a calculation to figure out how many they're going to lose.
It's strategic, and they're basically fine-tuning their service, right, in the industry. Which makes sense. So, on that note, I want to know your thoughts on going fee for service and even starting an in-house membership program within a practice.
Yeah, I can't tell you whether to be in network or out of network, but I can tell you better crunch the numbers, and you, just like the insurance companies, need to know the ultimate bottom line when it happens. And you may have statistics that support one way or the other, but they're the ones that I've heard. If you drop a particular network, those patients, you're going to lose 80% of them unless the people that keep them have great communication skills and have set it up appropriately. There are some plans that you should never be in network with because the amount of write-offs you take go well beyond your overhead, so you're actually losing money when you see those patients. So always do your due diligence, do the calculations, understand the effect on your bottom line to find out if you can stand it.
I agree.
But in today's world, there are more people without dental insurance than there are with. So I've seen practices be very successful by marketing to the uninsured. The tagline might be no dental insurance, no problem. And they have implemented a program in their practice that gives benefits to the patients. And they think, okay, I'm not having to pay full price, or I get this or that. So this is the practice I want to go to because they're going to be able to provide me whatever it might be, a reduced fee or comp services. And I've seen in-house discount programs work very well in those practices who position themselves as the the no dental insurance, no problem practice. And as I said, there are more people in the United States now without dental insurance than there are with. So that, we have a tendency to teach our patients what's important.
Yeah.
And we do that when the person who answers the phone, the first or second question they ask is, do you have dental insurance? Giving giving the patient an idea. Well, why did they ask that question unless it's important? If I don't have insurance, am I not welcome there?
I guess I better go get insurance and call them back, right? It definitely makes...
exactly. Like I said, you have to be careful about what you communicate. I encourage you, if they ask that insurance question, if the patient does that, I would first try to, I'd certainly answer the question, but I would first try to get to know the patient better.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because many times the patients don't have an opening question other than, do you take my dental insurance? And that may not be their number one priority. Don't assume it is.
It's just the mindset that we as an industry have created to the patients.
To a great extent, we have.
Yeah.
So I would, a patient asked about dental insurance. I said, well, before we get to the money question, I want to know a little bit more about you and what's going on. I want to make sure that I answer your questions correctly and that I understand what your needs are. Certainly the finances are going to be important, but can I get to know you and your situation a little bit better first?
I love that. I love that approach. I think that definitely sounds like you actually care about that patient.
Yeah.
And as you know, I mean, you're a doctor. You know how it is in the industry. Dentistry is a relationship business, right?
Absolutely.
People just don't go buy a new crown by going to your website and ordering it online like they do Amazon, right? It is a relationship business, right?
Yeah.
So
it's a perceived need. If people were always looking for the cheapest way out, everybody would own the cheapest vehicle possible. They wouldn't buy Lexus. They wouldn't buy BMW. They wouldn't buy Audi. So,
Absolutely.
Why should we think or even set up our practice so that we're the least expensive? Because that's not the way the world works.
Yeah, and I know a lot of practices will feel like the dentistry is like a commodity and things like that, which I don't really agree with, because it is so custom and so case by case. Being the lab side, it's every case that came in was extremely different, right? So it's like, how is that a commodity? Milk is a commodity. It's the same product every time, right?
Well, that's not true either. You're going to get...
I guess. Yeah,
there's different types of milks. They're organic. There's fat-free. There's all kinds of, lactose intolerant, all almond milk. So, even in today's world,
commodities aren't necessarily 100% commodity.
No, and people are going to buy what they value.
Yep, and typically, value comes with education, right? You got to be educated, or you got to educate your patients on the value you are giving them.
Well, absolutely. You have to communicate in today's world. I don't know if you're like this, Jordan, but I'm like this. I hate to be sold. I hate to walk into a place and have somebody trying to run down my throat.
My guard goes up, and I don't want to talk to them.
Yeah, I love to buy the things I value and the things I want. Then, I'll find a way to make it work. Absolutely. And patients are exactly the same way. And we in dentistry, we're too nice when we communicate to our patients. We try not to offend, and that way we kind of reduce the need and communicate in a way that they don't find either a need or value in it. And certainly I don't want to threaten them or just, I started to say I don't want to scare them. I do. I do. I want them to have a healthy concern about their situation, especially if there's an active disease process going on. The one word we need to take out of dentistry is just. It's not just a cleaning. It's not just a small filling.
It's just a crown.
It's no. I'm sorry. This is something that if you don't have done,
it's going to cause you more pain or challenges.
Yeah, exactly. So, don't sit. That's a conversation. Well, do you have any idea what one word we can use in dentistry to help encourage our patients to accept periodontal treatment?
I have no idea what that word would be.
The word is pus. So when you're probing around in the patient's mouth, you don't say, okay, we've got a little drainage here, a little separation. They have no idea what that is.
Yeah.
you're probing around and you start to get some drainage and go, "Ooh, we've got some pus coming out here." Pull out the camera and show them the pus.
Yeah.
And say, "Ooh, if this means that there's some bacteria underneath there that's causing an infection, and by the way, this infection, pussy drainage you're getting in your mouth, it's also going in your body." And go to the second place and do a little, "Oh, we got some more pus here. By the way, do you taste that when you eat? And does anybody smell that?"
Yikes! Yeah.
By the time you get to the second or third place,
they're gonna want to get done. Yeah.
it's like, how do I get this pus out of my mouth? So you don't have to sit them up and give them a technical description of
No.
periodontal disease and the scaling and root planing procedure. All they want is the pus out of their mouth and healthy.
Yeah.
And if we've gone there first and the patient understands that there was pus in their mouth, it not only helps them to understand and want that treatment that you're going to suggest to them to get rid of the pus, but 6 months down the road, when the patient calls the office and wants to cancel their periodontal maintenance appointment, that person at the front desk, who should also value the treatment you give, open the patient record and go, there were several areas that were pus draining in your mouth, and we were going to check that this time. Are you sure you want to cancel that appointment?
I love that. Well,
does that arm that person at the front desk with the information they need from the documentation to be concerned about that patient and to encourage them to continue with treatment so they don't have to suffer with the pus drainage in their mouth? Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
so
and I like.
I'm sorry.
You're good. You're good. I like that you said you documented that just for the patient too, right? Not just for insurance companies, because I think even if you have a membership program and that patient's uninsured, I think you got to document that you can show the patient as well, because really the patient is the end customer, and you've got to have documentations to educate them as well.
Exactly, and to continue with that continuation of care. So that's going to help that person to communicate with the patient at that appointment, but subsequently the information is there. And for example, if you're in a practice with multiple hygienists or multiple doctors, they're going to be equipped with that information. They're going to be able to see, okay, at last appointment, they very specifically the issues that were found. And it's not like starting all over again. And the worst case scenario is you have 3 hygienists and they don't document appropriately. The second one comes in and goes, you've got some pus drainage here, and the patient's going to go, yeah, I know. Don't you know? The last time I had that as well.
Yeah.
So, if you don't do that, especially if you have multiple people who might see and treat that patient.
Yeah, absolutely.
That patient's going to go, you don't know anything about me. Why should I come back?
Yeah.
It's like starting all over again.
Yeah, and that's painful. That's painful for a patient. They want after especially if you've been seeing a practice or a dentist, hygienist for a few years, and you feel like they still don't know your situation because they're trusting you as a professional to know their health situation, because most patients have no clue on
Correct.
like their situation, right?
And that ties back to being a commodity. If you don't listen to them and if you don't know them personally, if you're just Dr. Joe who walked in and this month is the doctor of the month, that's not going to encourage that patient to maintain that relationship with that practice, because you just became a commodity.
Yeah.
You don't know them. You don't have any history with them. You obviously don't communicate. So why in the world do I have to worry about coming back? I could have the same experience with a new doctor down the street. No, by the way, they're $15 cheaper on my cleaning. So yeah, I'm going to go there.
Yeah. So the key is to build that relationship and know your patients, and you won't become a commodity.
Correct.
Yeah. So, Roy, this has been an awesome episode. The last question I have for you is, did you learn any life lessons while you went through prison and through your challenge? I mean, that's really what I want to know.
I did. And, both professionally and personally. So let's start with the professionally thing first. So I shared that I was under investigation, the search and seizure. I was then indicted, and both those were common knowledge. When I was indicted, it went everywhere. I have a friend that practiced dentistry in New Jersey, read the New York Times. I was a story in the New York Times.
My gosh.
He called
Wow.
and said, hey, what's going on? So everybody knew. And I thought my practice would be dead, that it was bad enough when I was being investigated, but when you're indicted, it's kind of like, okay, there's grounds to be able to move forward. He must be a crook.
Wow.
The best best year I ever had financially in my practice was the year after I was indicted and the year before I was prosecuted. Patients came in, and you know how you'll have diagnosed the need for a crown or a partial or whatever that might be, and patients will sometimes postpone that
for
whatever
course.
reason.
Yeah.
So in that year and a half, patients came in, and I would go there again. A patient would come in, needed a crown. I would go, you really need this crown. And I would go through the reasons, and they would look at me and go, I know I need the crown, and I want you to do it. And they would kind of tilt back in the chair and look at me and go, and I want you to do it, and I don't know if you're going to be here, so go ahead and do it now. So they say any publicity is good publicity. I'd have to say yes, it is. But the thing that I learned is that patients understand who you are if you have a relationship with them, regardless of what's being said.
Absolutely.
They will stay with you because of the relationship. So my way of sharing is that if you want to be that practice where patients are loyal, they refer other patients to you. Don't treat their insurance. Don't treat their pocketbooks. Treat them because you care about them as human beings.
Yeah, I love that.
Number one. And secondarily, from a personal point of view, is we have frenemies in our lives. We have friends to our face and enemies behind our back. You probably know who those are, have a good idea who those are. Don't spend time on those individuals who do not have your back.
Yeah.
I learned those people that loved me, care about me, regardless of what was going on. Don't spend time on those people that are playing you or just using the relationship at all.
Yeah.
Spend time with family and with friends who are loyal, because they will stay loyal regardless of what's going on the outside. That is time. That is energy well spent. Trying to encourage people to care about you and like you who don't, and who are going to be that frenemy. Pull the trigger, get rid of them. It's not worth the effort. It's not worth the energy. If you cannot trust that person, if there's not a relationship there, if they don't want to be able to hold you, number one, accountable, and to hold you up when you need help, those are the people that you need to spend time with. Otherwise, don't.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with that more. I recently bought out some of my business partners because of that, right? Because it almost was not a real relationship, if you ask me, right? Where if I was struggling with something or needed help, and it was just a really shallow relationship, and all they cared about is getting more money and not working as much, and owning and starting a business and growing a business is a very challenging task. You've owned a practice, right?
Yeah.
And you've got awesome moments, and you've got just some pretty crummy moments, right? And challenging moments. And that's one thing that I have learned this past year too, recently. And I've recently started bringing people on our team that actually care about what we're doing here at Boom Club, but also care about me, and I care about them, right? And I've noticed a big difference with the direction of my company, where it's going on a professional level, right? So I agree with you 100% on that lesson right there. I think that's a very valuable lesson. Cool. So awesome, Roy. Well, I appreciate you coming on our show again. I always enjoy seeing you and talking with you in person when we see each other. So I enjoyed this episode, and I hope all you listeners out there find value in Roy's experience and his information and education today on our show. So I hope everybody has a wonderful day. And Roy, if anybody wants to reach out to you, maybe they have a question, or maybe I assume you help consult and do some things with the practice in regards to staying out of prison.
I do. That's my passion.
That's your passion. So where can somebody reach out to you?
I would email me. It's Roy, ROY _ last name Shleburne, SHEL, B as in boy, UR, N as in Nancy, E, @hotmail.com.
Perfect. And any website or just email?
Yeah, website, www.royshleburne, all one word.com.
Cool. And I'll post these in the show notes so people can click them and things like that. But Roy, thanks so much for coming on our show again, man.
Hey, you're welcome.
Yeah.
Happy to do it. Great to be able to see you in Honolulu, and
It was awesome.
maybe we'll rub elbows someplace else.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So, okay, everybody, you guys have a great day, and we'll see you on the next episode.